Welcome to the Soul Archaeology podcast, a space for connection, resonance, witnessing, and learning. Together we'll harvest medicine from the spiral of life, sharing conversations with other embodied humans who have navigated their own initiations and found alignment with their true soul essence. With weekly astrology, energy updates, embodied conversation, and channeled teachings, this is a space for you to land and find resonance with the spiral of your own soul. Hello, welcome back to Soul Archaeology. We have crossed the threshold into August. And I think it's a good time to just pause and reflect on July. We're getting sent straight into the eclipse portal. And we do have a little bit of a nice pause this week. Even though we're in the eclipse portal, technically it starts a month before the first eclipse and a month after. And the energy's already moving. The lunar node shifted last week. We talked all about that. I recommend going back and listening to that episode. I also did a deep dive on my Substack as well. And we are seeing the shadow of Leo fully online. And because, of course, we have the influence of Jupiter, which makes everything big. Anything it touches, it expands. And so it's expanding Leo. So there's just so much noise, so much content, so much material, so many people talking, expressing, sharing, beautiful. And the shadow of that is that a lot of it's coming from AI, a lot of it's coming from the wound, these sort of wounded parts within us that are desperate to be seen because of our early experiences, our past life experiences, the karma we came here to remedy. And that's not bad, right? Sometimes we're meant to just express for expression's sake. And this transit, especially this first eclipse we have on August 12th, which is a south node eclipse, a solar eclipse, it really wants us to take inventory of why are we creating, why are we expressing, why are we sharing what we're sharing. And it's not a bad thing if we are extra loud right now, if our programs are loud, if our feelings are loud. Leo's very passionate. It's also very dramatic in its shadow expression. And so is there something that just feels like it wants to scream through you? Let it scream. But can you do it in a way that is actually healing rather than projecting that onto someone or some idea or ideal that you have? The body wants to move something. Or maybe your wounding is that you never express, and this is feeling like a pressure cooker building within you. Can you move with it? Can you let it out? Can you share it somewhere? One of my favorite things to do is I think when we have these charges within us, these energies building within us, we need to move it somatically. So I always say move first and then process. You're processing while you're moving, but if there's something you need to say to someone that's really at the surface right now, can you move with it? Can you let your body express it? Can you open your mouth and your jaw? Sometimes it's less about the actual thing that needs to be said, and it's more about an actual just charge in your system that's saying the throat needs to work, the jaw needs to work. I need a sound to come out to express this. And then I recommend journaling about it. I love writing letters and really letting it come from the wound, letting it come from the inner child, saying everything you've needed to say for so long onto paper and then burning it. And then sit with it and kind of say, is there more? Let me go through it again. Let me go through it again until you land in a place where you're not just moving from that wounded part anymore. And then from there, you can take inventory and say, does this actually still need to be shared? And sometimes it's an absolute yes. And it says, this person needs to hear it. I need to speak it out of my mouth. I need to share it and I need to see them receive it. And then other times it's actually not needing to be expressed. It's something that is needing internal processing or needs that inner reflection from you, from your higher self to your inner child. Or it simply can't be heard by the other person and actually might be more harmful in sharing it. It might be more re-traumatizing for you. It might be honestly a waste of energy. And that just depends on each particular circumstance and dynamic and what you're moving through. But there is a process that we can move through to express what the grievances we have, the anger, the emotion, the grief, the movement that wants to happen. And it goes the same for being seen. It is important to be seen by other people. That is a part of our connective tissue as humans. We need to be able to be reflected and seen by other people. That's part of our journey here as connective relational beings. And that will never actually land unless you're being authentic, unless you see you. So this is where, this is the work I've been doing with clients for the last few weeks, and it's been so funny to see the shift and it be so my And the wounding that's coming up is around being seen, and that can express in a million different ways. And I won't go into all of it because it's more for my personal one-on-one work with people and in my container, the vessel. But this is a lot of what I'm going to be talking about in the Eclipse Portal Workshop. How do we actually work with these transits? It's not just, the pop astrology that we're saying, which is like, this is a time to be seen. It's like, no, this is a time to alchemize the wound of being seen. Any wounding we have around it, this is a time to actually upgrade that point within us to say, okay, I do want to be seen, but what is driving that, right? And can I project from a place of truth and authenticity? Can I express from that space rather than this wounded younger part that is just desperate to be seen? Because that actually won't work. And it just leaves us in the continuous perpetual spiral of the wound. So we're going deep in this Eclipse Portal Workshop, and we are at the edge. We're at the edge of eclipse season. So we are getting ready to dive in next week. And I'm excited to go deep with all of you on Sunday. So if you would like to join me, the link is in my show notes. It is on Sunday, August 9th at 9 a.m. Pacific. And this will probably be my last workshop until I go on maternity leave. So if you'd like to join, it would be amazing. I'm looking forward to gathering with all of you. And this week is a little bit slower than the last few weeks. We have an opportunity here to really take inventory. And I do appreciate retrogrades because I do think that, I kind of talked about this, I think it was in the last episode, but they do play a very specific and important role. And they enable us to go a little bit deeper, to slow down, and to notice where we're operating from, which I'm telling you in this new era is everything. We can no longer be unconscious beings moving through the world. We have to befriend our unconscious spaces, our subconscious. We have to really know what's moving there. And the more we befriend it, the more we reparent it, the more we integrate it, the more conscious we become as we move through life daily in each and every single small choice we make. And retrogrades help us with that. So this week we have Chiron stationing retrograde in Taurus on August 3rd. And then on August 6th, we have Venus moving into Libra, which I'm so excited about. I think we need some rationale. We need some balancing and some harmonizing. It's been quite intense. And this move of Venus into Libra, I think, will bring us a little bit out of polarity and extremism and a little bit into rationality and what's actually real, how we can balance the spaces within us and these external spaces too. So this week does offer a bit of a sacred pause before, one, we continue building on these new systems, build this new earth within and without. And we know the timeline from really 2025 into 2032 is rapid, fast, accelerated change. And we are dismantling and building at the same time. It's a push and pull. 2025, 2024, really, 2025, even 2026 have been so much of this back and forth where it's sort of, okay, we build a little bit and then we break some of it down and we revisit and we look and we integrate more and we become more whole and more conscious through this process. And 2026 is very much like that. We've had a lot of rapid, fast, accelerated change. A lot's been broken down. Some has been built. And now we're pausing for a moment before we enter into a very intense and fast eclipse season. What are we building? What are we using? What bricks are we using? What stones are we using to lay this new foundation? Because this new earth within and outside of us is not going to be built by just sitting back and waiting for it to be built. It's built consciously, brick by brick, internally and externally. Yes, there are sort of larger evolutionary forces that are fated. I do believe that. I think that some things are just happening because they have to, and it's part of the plan, and it's part of the whole fabric of our collective consciousness. And we build consciously, individually, and weave our own fabric that becomes a fabric of the larger collective. And so we do have to be conscious along this path. It's going to feel like one day we wake up and our life is just completely different. But we also have to realize that the way we get there is by making small conscious choices every day. And I know I talk about this a lot, but I do think that it's really important to honor these slower periods, these sacred pause points before things accelerate. And I do think after eclipse season, we have a Venus retrograde in Scorpio and Libra. This fall will be heavily in retrograde season by then, and it's going to slow down quite a bit after September. So this is a little bit of a checkpoint. This is our first taste of that slowing down this week. 2027 is going to pick up even faster than 2026. And so the invitation is to consciously work with this Chiron retrograde this week, to consciously work with the South Node in Leo that is activating the sun next week. And we'll talk more about that in the Eclipse Portal workshop. So on August 3rd, Chiron stations retrograde in Taurus. And this is important and significant, one, because many of us have never experienced a retrograde of Chiron in Taurus. This hasn't happened in probably 43, 44 years. Chiron hasn't retrograded over this territory of Taurus since 1976. And so many of you were born around that timeline. You have a natal Chiron in Taurus. Maybe you were born before that and you've experienced it somewhere within your consciousness. Maybe you were in a past life at that point and experienced it. But retrogrades do bring us back. They turn the energy inward. And so they're a descent, and it's a descent within the energy of that planet. This is a celestial body. It's an asteroid. And Chiron already represents our core wounding. It represents the wounding we experience and bring into this life to be a growth accelerator, a healing accelerator. It brings us deeper into our layers of evolution. And Chiron's fascinating. A lot of people are, when I work with people, either, astrological readings or in my deeper one-on-one work, it's so fascinating because Chiron is always such a potent, tender point. And often what I hear when I touch on these Chiron points is, I'm so sick of this. I'm ready to be over this. I'm ready to move beyond this wound. I can't stand this wound. And that is the nature of it. It's our deepest core wounding. And often that's the part of us that is so painful and so difficult to integrate because we have a natural built-in security system that says, don't go there. But going there is exactly what we have to do. And the thing about Chiron is that those core wounds will likely never fully resolve. And it's not because we're being punished or that this is a perpetual state of suffering here on earth, but it's because it's a teacher. And I think so often now, in this weird day and age we live in, people want to be the teacher immediately. They want to go straight from wisdom to expertise. They want to extract the wisdom from every single thing right away. And that is simply not possible. Fruit ripens over time. You notice what happens when fruit is artificially ripened. It doesn't contain the nutrients that it should. It doesn't taste the same. Have you ever had a tree ripened fruit and picked it straight off of the vine or straight off of the tree itself or the branch? It tastes so much better. And it's not even the flavor. It's this knowing that it holds exactly what it needs to be at that perfect point of ripeness. It has gone through the different stages. It has survived the seasons. It has quite literally been chosen through evolution to exist, to hit maturity. And so why do we want to rush a ripening? Why are we so ready to just immediately move into a state of expertise and mastery? And of course, all this pressure is coming from the marketing world and the fact that we have to be an expert in anything. We have to have a niche. We have to be that person, that go-to person in order to sell something. And it's not real and it's not accurate and it's not authentic. This is some of that shadow Leo energy. And why do we feel like we need to skip over the ripening process? We don't want to artificially ripen. And Chiron teaches us that. It says, you will have a teacher throughout your life and you have to listen. Now, we'll have external teachers, mirrors and guides and mentors, which is beautiful. And we'll always have these internal teachers. You're not meant to be experts in everything. Some people are experts in things and it's incredible and beautiful. And most of us are just learning as we go and sharing that wisdom along the path. This is the same thing with Chiron. We will not master our wounding in this lifetime. I think we can become really good at befriending it. I think we can become ultra conscious of it, but we're not meant to master all of it. That's just way too much pressure, and it actually leads us down pathways that aren't actually authentic. So if you feel that energy of, I'm so sick of this, I'm so done with this, use that as alchemy. Use that as power to say, what part of me is so exhausted by this? How can I be with that part a little bit longer? How can I nurture that part and give it what it needs? I know many of you probably are not liking what I'm sharing right now, but I have to share it because it's the truth that Chiron is a lifelong teacher. And do I think that we need to be in perpetual states of suffering and healing and optimizing? No, absolutely not. And I think that's the point. Can we just be with what is here right now, with the wounding that's here? Can we befriend? Can we love? Can we show compassion for these parts that are having big feelings, that are feeling wounded? Can we be students of life and not rush to be teachers of it necessarily? Or if we are teachers in certain sectors and mentors or guides, which is so needed as well, can you remain a student? Can you remain humble? Can you remain in your ego work? Can you befriend these spaces within you as well? And Chiron's really good for that. So yeah, the more I've learned about my Chiron over time, and it's not something that you learn in one course or in one session, but it's something that you really learn over time, like a ripening process. It has been so deeply humbling to see how it really influences so much of my decision making, so much of my life choices. And the more I befriend it and the more I'm witnessing myself with it and saying, wow, I'm humbled by this wounding. I'm humbled by this part of myself. And I'm choosing to see it and choosing to integrate it. The more I do that, the less power it actually has. And it becomes, instead of this thing to reject and to be ashamed of, it becomes this little girl to love and to take care of because she's worth it and she deserves it. So this Chiron retrograde in Taurus, one is very significant if you have a natal Chiron in Taurus. If you have fixed placements at early degrees in your chart, you'll feel this significantly. If you have a late degree cardinal signs, you will feel this significantly because Chiron is retrograding at 0 degrees of Taurus and moving back into Aries on September 17th. So Chiron entered Taurus in June. It's re-entering Aries on September 17th. It will be there until the spring where it re-enters Taurus for the long haul. We already have Pluto, Neptune, and Saturn retrograde. And I really find this interesting, this dance between Saturn retrograde and this Chiron retrograde in Taurus, because one, they're both working along the Aries-Taurus axis. Saturn's at, I think, 13 degrees now, so it's not quite far into Aries. But they're both asking a very similar question. And they're both saying, what are we building with? What materials, what choices, what fears, what wounds, what level of consciousness are we creating the architecture of our new world, our new internal and external world? It's giving us a moment to pause. I talked a lot about Saturn retrograde 2 episodes ago, and I recommend going back because it really breaks down the medicine of Saturn retrograde. A lot of people are afraid of Saturn. The more you befriend it, just like Chiron, the more free you will feel from its influence. So this retrograde is saying, what are we building from before we move more deeply into the next chapter? What bricks and stones are we using to build this new foundation? Scarcity is a big shadow of Chiron and Taurus. Can we move slowly? Can we build a new chapter rooted in self-worth, in slowness, pleasure? Is there space to soften, to trust more, to slow more? Or are we moving from urgency, from scarcity, from this wounding around Chiron and Aries that we really had to work through over the last 9 years? This is a bit of a checkpoint before things really accelerate as we move into spring 2027. So from now until April 2027, this is a point where we get to revisit our conscious choices. We get to revisit our relationship with the body, with identity, with self, with victim consciousness, with power, with choice, with initiation. We are building conscious lives with conscious choices and conscious bricks and stones. And as Chiron retrogrades from Taurus back into Aries over the next 2 months, we're going to be covering old territory. Retrogrades always do. But this will be covering this sort of bridge threshold between these 2 signs. So material around identity, financial security, self-worth, security, safety, and connection to the body, movement, action, initiation, aligned or not aligned action, reactivity, anger, victim consciousness. This will all be up. This next month is crucial as far as auditing our relationship with money, our relationship with resources, our relationship with the physical plane. This bridge between Aries and Taurus. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and so it moves from the I am point to, which is identity and ego and will and drive, into the body. This bridge helps us embody life from a conscious state, noticing what it's like to be in the body, to move from the body, to be connected to and starting to build something outside of the ego, the self. What it's like to work with the physical plane, what it's like to take all of this data and information of our birth of consciousness and start creating from it. In Chiron and Taurus is the wound of embodiment. It's the deep collective and personal injury around being here, around safety in the body, security in the material world, trust in our own capacity to receive, to rest, to feel worthy of the ground beneath our feet. Chiron here is really excavating the places, the wounds where we believe there's not enough, where we cannot trust the body to be safe, to be a home, where receiving is either not feeling safe, it might feel dangerous. This, of course, connects to self-worth inherently, because self-worth is what directs our ability to receive self-worth and safety. So before we move into the next chapter, before eclipse season sort of sweeps us into what's coming, into the swirl of that karmic storm, we're being asked to look honestly at our foundations. What bricks and stones are we using to build this new life? Are they made of conscious choice or inherited fear, scarcity, wounding? This also connects, of course, weaves into everything else, but the South Node in Leo, are we driving this need to be heard, to be seen, to grow, to produce out of the ego? Can we trust a little bit more that perhaps a new pathway wants to emerge? Slowness, presence, embodiment, security, safety, pleasure. Can we build with those bricks rather than fear and scarcity and this desire to be seen so desperately? And we're going to be looking at the shadow side of Taurus around its fixed nature. Are we moving too slowly? Are we terrified of taking action? Is there a resistance to change? Is there this tendency to sort of calcify? Or are you in the shadow Aries, moving from impulsivity, victim consciousness, reactivity? Are you moving too quickly without actually thinking? So these two sort of extremes are going to be present, and we'll have to find our place within it. Where are we operating from? Are we operating from both sides at different times? That's the dynamic nature of the self, as well, as that we have many different parts operating. So where are you along that spectrum, and how can you bring more conscious awareness to it? Because Chiron retrograde is going to be so fruitful. I really believe that. And then we have some more Venusian influence as Venus enters Libra. And I do think this will be supportive as we move through eclipse season to have this value alignment occurring. Venus rules our values, how we give and receive love and resources. Libra is the 7th sign of the zodiac. It's sort of this axis point, this fulcrum point where we begin to really step out of just the self and start to see the other, how we are reflected in the other, how others are reflected in us. Its evolutionary goal is to relate, to experience itself reflected in the other. And there's a really heavy evolutionary focus on relativity. And I think that Libra is in many ways the nervous system of the zodiac. Doesn't rule the nervous system, but it is this system within us that enables us to sort of take in data and info and compute the best outcome for all, whatever will keep the equilibrium. And this is both its superpower and its shadow, its ability to remain open and focused on balance. Now, that does not mean that Libra is meant to be balanced all the time. Peace is not inherent. It's earned through practice and intention. But we must be able to access the peaceful space within us, the balance, and anchor into it. And Libra is a cardinal sign, so it's initiatory, it's exploratory, it's always testing outcomes in relationships, and balance is a practice. So we're constantly moving in and out of that fulcrum point. We are always teetering and then rebalancing. And I think having this influence of Libra as we move into eclipse season will be really supportive to really understand what helps us balance, what helps us remain in alignment with self and with the external. I think this will also be helpful to keep the ego in check a bit, especially with Jupiter in Leo, the South Node in Leo. We'll be able to work with this energy of Libra to move out of just the self and learn how to give and not just take. Learn how to accept that mirror, that reflection that we're receiving in the other, and really work with it. So it will likely help keep us in check a little bit and help keep us a little balanced. The shadow is that it can self-abandon. So when it's so focused on the outside and not able to stay anchored to the self within that, it loses touch. In the shadow of Libra's overfunctioning is overgiving, is people-pleasing, codependency, losing self-abandonment. This is some of my favorite work to do with clients, and almost everyone I work with has some of this to some degree, and I understand it intimately as a Libra. And this is where the work is to remain anchored to self when also experiencing the other, experiencing the external, relating. This is that deep relational work, and it goes even deeper when we get into Scorpio. But this Libra point is sort of noticing. It's cerebral, so it's noticing, where am I leaving self for the other? Where am I abandoning self? There's a big difference between being in healthy relationship and securely attached, and being in community and giving and self-abandoning. So that's the point that we want to really notice over the next month as Venus moves through Libra. And this will be the teaching that peace is not a passive state. It's not the absence of conflict. It's something we really earn through practice, through intention, through the shadow work, the mirror work. Like I said, I do think it will be quite supportive through this eclipse season. So I would love to have you in my Eclipse Portal workshop. I have it linked in the show notes. I also have my Inner Compass course linked, which is a very deep dive into all things lunar nodes. This is something I've been working on for many years, and I just love working with the lunar nodes. And so if you're curious about yours, if you're curious about how to work with them in general, others, if you're a practitioner and are seeking deeper awareness around how these can influence your clients and the people you work with, Inner Compass is for you. Podcast members actually get 10% off. So I shouldn't say podcast members, you're not a member of anything, but podcast listeners get 10% off. You just use the code podcast to get that when you check out. So the card I pulled today is the Sun card, and it's all about divine service. As the star at the center of our solar system, a fiery traveler of timeless confidence and force, Sun unifies the planets through gravity and light. Illuminating and supreme, he devours the shadows. His circulating heat is all-powerful and offers the understanding that, to honor the divine within and all around us, we must all serve. Sun reveals that by giving undivided attention to your inner luminosity, you free it to shine outward, illuminating the way for others. This is the way of life. We evolve to serve. Just as Sun's light serves all life on earth, your light serves all whom you know. Continue to invigorate your inner light so that you become a pharos of clarity and wisdom. This is not a purely selfless path. As you offer your service, its radiating warmth is reflected back by all who benefit, and you are remunerated in multiples. When it's balanced, you're serving from a place of wholeness. When it's imbalanced, selfishness, self-serving attitudes, and self-sacrifice. To bring into balance, develop the art of gracefully receiving to instill the felt sense of what it's like to accept from others openly and then give in return. This is very spot on. Allowing this ego work and this work around the self and this deeper South Node in Leo, weaving all of this Libran energy as well. Finding the point within us where we serve from truth, wholeness, authenticity. So it was so great to be here with you. Thank you for listening as always. Thank you for sharing. Sharing really, really helps this podcast. I would love if you'd share on social media, share with friends and family. It means so much to me. And you can join my Substack. It's $8 a month, and it supports the production of this podcast. I also do deeper dives over there. I do more personal shares. So thank you for being here. Have a beautiful week, and I will see you soon.